It is Thursday. We are on the Little Nessie channels and me and Ron's personal LinkedIn channels. And every Thursday we go live and we just talk for an hour. We talk about mortgage, real estate, tech, marketing, branding, social media, you name it, because they all kind of tie into one. But we call our podcast happy hour, so we always start and end with a cheers. So cheers to you, Ron. How are you?
Cheers to you. I'm terrific. We're a little early summer here. It's 106 every day for the foreseeable future until it gets to 110 and then 115. So it's good. It's summertime.
And is this 3 weeks in a row where you're actually taking the podcast from home instead of somewhere around the world?
It sure is. I'm so excited about this.
Look at
Setting
you.
the record,
Look
David.
at you. Well, welcome to our show. Like I said, we're going to talk for we usually land around 60 minutes, sometimes 70. But if you're a loan officer, real estate agent, or if you're in either one of those businesses and you play some kind of role, what we talk about some of it will help you, some of it will entertain you. But we're going to chat for an hour. What say you, Ron?
I can't wait. We have a lot of good topics, some hopefully interesting data, and some hidden signals. So hopefully everybody will enjoy it.
All right. Well, let's start with giving our audience a brief overview of what we're going to talk about, and then we'll get into it. The first thing, I usually have a weekly segment called From the Gut. And this week, there's an example of a video that went super viral. I'm not going to say too much about it until I get to my little monologue, but when to pivot, when to hold. This should help you, whether you're a loan officer, a real estate agent, if you're in marketing. It really just it'll be helpful for any human watching, because I think the challenge that I'm going to talk about with this as an example is relevant to anyone, everywhere, at a lot of times during their careers. So that's the From the Gut. And then we're going to get into a few main topics that Ron usually leads the way on. And let's take a look at the first one.
I'm really excited to talk about this, David, with you. And this is the news earlier this week that Berkshire Hathaway has bought Taylor Morrison, or is buying Taylor Morrison. It has a whole bunch of implications that we'll talk about. It's gonna be a great topic.
And then we'll get to this one.
This one has a little hidden signal in it. It speaks to teenagers getting summer jobs, and so we'll give you some data, and then we'll give you some correlated insights to how that affects housing.
Yep.
This is, we always got to kind of talk about what's the impact AI is having on mortgage and real estate. And so we're going to talk about the referral engine that is AI.
And then we've got, I think, 4 rapid fire topics. So the main topics that we just overviewed, we usually spend about 8 minutes on those, and then rapid fire 3 to 4 minutes. So excited. We've got some people watching on some of our channels. It doesn't show me exactly which channels each person is coming in from, but we've got some viewers, so welcome. If you have any questions for me or Ron, send them to Ron instead of me, because he'll be able to answer it way better than me. But we'd love to hear some comments in the chat, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever. We should get them, and we'll do our best to respond to all of them. But without further ado, you ready for this week's From the Gut, Ron?
I can't wait. It's the best segment of the show.
All right, let's do it. All right. If you've been watching for the last 3 minutes and you're still here, then you saw the little image that I used to show you or give you an idea of what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to get into that right away. I'm going to get into it about halfway through. But the point that I'm going to make here is one that I think every leader, every business owner, marketer, salesperson, whether you're a loan officer or a real estate agent, I think it's honestly something that every human at some point struggles with at some point. How do you know when to admit you're wrong? I've faced plenty of challenges in my career where I took too long to make a decision or made one too quickly. But how do you know when to trust your gut versus stay the course? Because everybody says listen to feedback, and I agree. Everyone says listen to your customers. I agree with that too. But the older I get, the more I realize leadership isn't solely about listening. It's also about interpreting, because not all feedback means the same thing or holds equal importance. Take Netflix as an example. Back in 2011, in the early days, they announced they were splitting their DVD business. And if you're not old enough, yes, Netflix started out as a DVD business, but probably everyone knows that. But they started to split their DVD business with their streaming business. Their DVDs would become a separate company called Quickster. Customers initially hated it. I shouldn't say initially, customers hated it, and the backlash was immediate. Not because people were uncomfortable with change necessarily, but because it made the customer's experience just objectively worse. People had to manage separate accounts, separate websites, separate billing. And Netflix eventually realized, excuse me, they eventually realized that they got it wrong. They publicly apologized and reversed course. Um, that's what, in my opinion, good leadership looks like. Not being perfect, but being willing to adapt when the evidence is staring you in the face. Cracker Barrel had a similar moment last year. I talked about it. I talked about it last year. I think it was in the summer months, but they refreshed their logo and their branding and what it looked like in their stores, and people just lost their minds. I did a monologue just on that itself. The internet just roasted them. Now, what's interesting is that Cracker Barrel didn't completely reverse the rebrand, but they did listen to what people were actually saying. The criticism wasn't as much about their logo, it was about their entire identity. People were worried Cracker Barrel was abandoning what made them feel like Cracker Barrel in the first place: Americana, Southern hospitality, good food at reasonable prices, and small town and small company feel, even though they're a giant in the restaurant world. So they adjusted its messaging. They reassured customers that the experience wasn't changing and they were keeping their old logo. Again, adaptation, listening, responding to your customers, sometimes your employees. But let's contrast that with Apple and their famous controversy when they got rid of the age old 3.5 millimeter corded headphone jack that was universal to everyone and every device. It's now rare to see people with corded headphones. I've got one on now, but just out in the street, in the bus, driving wherever, at the gym, you barely see these corded headphones anymore. And so when they removed that, people hated it. Customers complained, reviewers complained, competitors even mocked them. Samsung literally ran ads making fun of Apple for it. But Apple stayed the course. Why? Because they believed they weren't hearing evidence, they were just hearing discomfort. And Apple believed the market was heading to a mostly wireless world. And eventually, of course, they were right. AirPods became one of the most successful consumer electronic products ever created and shipped. So now we have two completely different leadership decisions. Netflix listened and changed. Cracker Barrel did kind of the same. Apple listened, but they did the opposite. And all three companies were correct, in my opinion, because the challenge isn't necessarily listening. The challenge is understanding what you're hearing. And this is where the story that I saw, the viral video, that's where this comes in. And just so we're clear, by itself, this video has absolutely nothing to do with marketing or leadership or social media. It's just a perfect example of what I've been talking about. Just last week, a cop's body cam footage went viral. A woman in Florida was pulled over and cited a ticket for holding a cell phone with her right hand while driving. The only problem, she doesn't have a right hand. McKenna, let's watch that video.
Hello, ma'am. Hey, good morning. I'm Deputy Gasala with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. Recently, why you're being pulled over in the city of Lakewood today. We're doing an operation for distracted driver, and you drove past me holding the phone with your right hand, manipulating that phone. I mean, I saw you with the phone in your hand.
Obviously not. So you want to just call this a day? Or?
I don't want to call it a day. You had a hand up manipulating the phone.
You just said my right hand.
Well, I thought I saw you with your right hand. You
so
had a
you
hand
didn't.
up. The right hand. I saw you manipulate.
So you didn't.
With the right hand, perhaps not, right? But I saw you.
You didn't see me with my right hand.
Okay, so are you
saying that you saw me with my right hand?
I know what I just said. I know what I just said. I'm asking you now. Did you or not have your phone on your hand?
I did not.
You did not have your phone in your hand?
I did not.
Hand to God, you didn't have your phone in your hand?
Hand to God.
The other hand to God, you don't have your phone in your hand?
Hand to God.
Cool. You have your driver's license, registration, and insurance with
you? She didn't even have a right hand. And even after she showed the police officer, he still issued the citation, and he just refused to accept reality. Could she have been possibly driving with her knee and had her phone in her left hand? Maybe. But that's a big maybe. But the cop just couldn't accept and admit that he was wrong. Now, I love law enforcement, but geez, eventually the citation was just dismissed. I think that was just this week. But he just couldn't admit he was wrong. But the reason this story went viral is because it's such a perfect example of what happens when reality shows up and someone refuses to adapt. Because in that moment, there was no strategy debate, there was no subjective opinion, there was no uncertainty. The evidence was literally standing right in front of him, and yet he kept moving forward. And I think that's where the lesson lives. Sometimes feedback is evidence. Sometimes it's emotion. Sometimes it's discomfort. Sometimes it's simply resistance to change. And the hard part is figuring out which is which. Because if you're clearly wrong, own it, fix it, apologize when necessary. But if the criticism is subjective, and then the decision aligns with who you are and where you're going and what you're trying to build, don't abandon it just because people don't like it. In marketing, in social media, in sales, you're going to try things. Some will work, some won't. Some people will love them. Some people will hate what you're doing. And if you spend your entire life trying to avoid criticism at all costs, you'll never do anything interesting. But if you ignore every piece of criticism, you'll eventually drive off a cliff. The goal isn't stubbornness, and it isn't people pleasing. It's wisdom. It's learning when to pivot and when to hold your ground. Because the hardest part of leadership isn't admitting when you're wrong. The hardest part is knowing whether you're wrong at all. And honestly, I think that's a skill that we're all trying to perfect. Ron, that's my From the Gut this week. Any thoughts?
Another great From the Gut? No, it's really hard, David. I mean, you think Elon Musk, everybody keeps telling that guy he's wrong, and he keeps proving the disbelievers wrong. I mean, it's an art to know when to give it up. And, but in this case, how can you argue the lady's holding a phone in her right hand? She doesn't have a right hand. I mean, that's the dumbest thing in the whole world. And so in those cases is when do you need to see a different reality, and when do you have to see the reality in front of you? It's a trick.
Let us know in the comments if you've seen that video and if you have any thoughts around it. And if you haven't seen that video, you're welcome. McKenna and I got some good laughs over that one. I wrote down 2 ideas. I think it was on Monday. Of what I wanted to talk about this week. And it was this one. And there was another one about Starbucks and how they've lost, I think it was 30 billion in market value because of some changes they've made. But when I told McKenna my 2 ideas for this week, she was like, you have to go with the lady with no hand. She was well aware of that video because it went very viral. All right, you want to head on to our first topic?
Yeah, that'd be great, David. And I'm so excited about this topic as we transition to it. It was big news, came across Sunday. Berkshire is going to buy Taylor Morrison. And it was, the news headlines mainly, it's a, whatever it happens to be, I think it's a $8 billion, $9 billion purchase, $8.5 billion purchase. And they talked about how much money Berkshire has, around $365 billion of cash on hand. And so that was one topic. The second topic is the new CEO's Abel's first major move. And those two things capture the headline. But David, there's so much more in here that is really important to what we do and things that you may not notice. And I'm going to get right to the heart of it, and then we can paint some color around it. Now, the purchase will actually make Berkshire Hathaway the fourth largest, builder in the country, because they also own Clayton Homes. And to give you guys a sense, Taylor Morrison built just about 13,000 homes last year, and Clayton Homes built just a tad under 10,000. When you combine them, it's going to be the number 4 builder in the country. And a bigger issue is, or bigger concept is, right now, Berkshire Hathaway has about 18 different business, conduits that plug into housing. If you think whether it's Geico Insurance or it's Home Services of America, Clayton Homes, they have 18 feeders that feed off of housing. And so what this really is, and I'm gonna put this in really, really simple terms. I'm going to compare them to the Rocket acquisition of Redfin and of Mr. Cooper. And, Rocket said, okay, we're now going to get to the top of the funnel with Redfin, and we're going to stay to the very last payment with Mr. Cooper. And now we're going to own the entire life cycle of this homeowner, right? And we were like, golly, that is really, really bright. Now, what Berkshire Hathaway is doing is they have a much bigger universe, because you bring in insurance, you bring in real estate, they own a ton of materials companies, like cement companies. Like, they have a much bigger universe. And so it's a much bigger deal. But the other thing, David, think about this. The Rocket whole platform, it's about, once a market is established, how to capture the market from the first lead to the end. Berkshire is expanding that to going, I'm not going to wait for the market to be created. I'm going to actually create the market through new construction. And so they're pushing out that timeline of who's first to the consumer. Right now, Rocket, uses predictive analytics to get the consumer as quickly as possible. But Berkshire Hathaway is actually going to create the market that the consumer doesn't even know exists yet. And they're expanding the whole funnel, the whole universe. It's just really incredible what they're doing. And the question then becomes, gosh, okay, I'm Ron. I'm a LO in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I work for an independent mortgage company. How do I compete with that kind of flywheel, right? What do I have to do to compete to that flywheel? And that's the things that you have to solve. But there are all sorts of things that we can do. If you could be an independent broker, a small IMB, there are things that you have to design to make sure that you can compete with these giant flywheels. Because here's what happens. When these giant universes come over and they take over, they put a shadow over your market. They're eating your market up, and you don't even know it. Meaning they're taking your customers before those customers can become yours, and your market just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. And so you have to learn how to fight back, how to expand your market, how to be more relevant than the giant machine. And now things like Rocket and Berkshire Hathaway are making it much more, they're raising the bar of competition. And I have to say that's good. It's going to make me get better to have to compete. But it's a huge, huge, huge signal to the marketplace, if you ask me. David, what do you think?
I was on mute. I've got more of a question than I thought. What does this mean for end consumers, for home buyers? How much does it change things for them?
You know what, David? It's really interesting. This is a very similar move in nature as the Japanese buying American home builders. So we talked about it before. Japanese companies, 3 specifically, have been buying home builders like TriPoint. I could keep going. Clayton Homes, right? They not Clayton Homes. They bought like 12 American builders, and now the 3 Japanese companies, if they were combined, are a top 5 builder in the United States. They have 5% of the market share in the United States, or top 3, right? But here's the thing about Japanese builders. Here's how it's going to change. I'll get to your question. Japanese builders have cheap money because money is nearly free in Japan, right? So they're coming with no cost of funds are near zero. And they build with a 100-year horizon. So they're not worried about quarterly reports, quarterly performance. They're like, what's my long-term, what's a long 100-year objective here? And then the third thing about Japanese builders, they bring quality manufacturing. And all those things are going to help make better homes less affordable. I mean, more affordable. Cheaper homes, they're going to be able to withstand up and down in the market, right? Well, what is Berkshire Hathaway? It's known as the most patient investor in the world, right? It's sitting on $365 billion of cash. Their costs of funds are going to be similar to the Japanese firms. And what's now, Taylor Morrison is not going to have to worry about meeting that quarterly, hamster wheel. I got to report again. I got to report. I got to juice my numbers. I got to make maybe short-term decisions so that I'm reporting good numbers. They don't have to do that with Berkshire Hathaway. Berkshire's going to have a ton of patience with them. They're going to have really good access to liquidity. They're going to have a huge connection to these other companies that feed into it, and it's going to help the consumer. It really should help the consumer. And I expect that they're going to make a really good product, quite frankly. They already do, but I expect it's actually going to improve the market.
Does it become harder for companies at scale, like Berkshire, who's acquired so many? Does it get harder for those companies when the markets dip, or is it easier because of their deep
No,
pockets?
no, it's easier. It becomes an unfair advantage, right?
Yeah,
Because they don't have to worry about their funding drying up. Berkshire Hathaway has all the money in the world. They're not going to worry about what
right.
the commercial, lending, restrictions are. The other thing that's interesting, David, this is what's really interesting, and this is, like I said, it's Abel's first big deal leading Berkshire Hathaway. But here's what's interesting: their modus operandi before was, that Warren Buffett, he'd buy a company, he'd only buy it if the current leadership stayed in place. And he says,
Yeah.
"You can run your company. That's why I bought you for you. You stay here, you run it." Abel did something really different. You know what he said? He said, we're gonna fold this all into now one giant housing organism that we're gonna house and flex, essentially.
Mm,
I'm
right.
paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he said. Berkshire's never done that. They never said we're gonna combine companies and we're gonna leverage it. They've never said that. So this is such a different play, which is why she can really catch everybody's attention.
How long before Warren Buffett friggin' retires?
Well, he is retired, except for he's head of the board, but he is retired now.
Yeah. He still seems pretty active for a retiree.
I totally agree. But this is
I
so,
get
Dave. This is huge news. I mean, it's so interesting, and it's something to keep your eyes on. And it won't move quickly, but it will have the waves will be felt for some time to come.
right. Let's move on. Let's talk about
Let's do it.
summer jobs,
This
future
I love this
buyers.
topic. I love this topic too, and I think we have a couple charts here that we're going to share with you. But here's the thing: teen summer employment is going to be the lowest it's been since 1948. So in some 70 years or 80 years, it's going to be the lowest. There's only going to be 790,000 summer jobs for teens. And when you think about that, you go, heck, what the heck does that mean? I think we have a chart here too. You think about that, you go, well, okay, what does that mean? And by the way, this chart here is showing not only that summer jobs are way down, but that there's not a meaningful difference between summer jobs and year-round jobs right now, and that is very unusual in this chart. And it's happening for a few reasons. There's a couple industries that are not hiring as much. Entertainment's not hiring as much. I think food and beverage isn't hiring as much for the summer. That's part of it. Part of it is that this next chart will show you, older people are coming back into the market and taking these jobs that kids would do, oddly enough. And so you can see here, which is the first time in a long time, people the age 55 and older have more jobs than kids do, which is a weird phenomenon. And now retired people are coming in and taking these jobs. And that's a phenomenon. And then the other thing is kids are using the summer to, better prepare for college. As they're taking they're not taking SAT classes and they're taking AP classes and they're taking classes at the community colleges. And so those are all some of the reasons. But David, I don't care about the reasons why. Here's the insight that I want to share and see how this resonates. You want to know something? A kid
What?
in high school that gets a summer job is going to buy a house earlier, and they're going to have a much higher financial literacy. It's very interesting, and I did quite a bit of research on this. And I did I did a LinkedIn post. I even done an article on this. But there's all sorts of studies that say kids that start making money in high school, one, they earn more money per year when they graduate, when they actually get into the marketplace. They save more money, and 59% of all down payments come from your own funds. And another thing, this CFPB did this exhaustive study. Kids that have jobs have a much higher financial literacy, and so they're just more confident, more ready to buy earlier. So with kids not having these summer jobs, you're starting to delay their entry into home ownership, which actually has impact. And it's one of those hidden things you wouldn't think, but it's really interesting. And if you want all the data and on the sources, just check out my LinkedIn on that. It's very interesting. What are your thoughts? And McKenna, also, this is a good topic for you.
And can I go back to that last chart, please? And we got a comment online, Ron, from your brother, Mike. But it's regarding the previous topic, if you want to go back to it. But but my thoughts on this is just, so if you're on a mobile phone or something, you can't quite see these ages. The top gray line, ages 25 to 54. Then the red line is kids, age 16 to 19. And then the bottom line, blue, age 55 and over. That is astounding, that there are less kids age 16 to 19 that are working than 55 plus. If it was maybe 65 plus, I would get it. But that's just astounding. I'm floored by that.
Yeah, it is. It is crazy. It's a really interesting topic, and like I said, I did David, quite a bit of research, and I put in my LinkedIn post on the effects of the delayed home ownership and financial literacy. Very interesting. But can I go back and answer Mike's question?
Yeah.
All
McKenna, see
right.
if you can pull that up on the screen. We've got a new functionality where we're going to try and show comments. So McKenna's going to try it. It may or may not work.
Yeah. So, Mike, first, thank you for asking the question. And McKenna, I'm putting on. I actually wrote a very lengthy article on this. Hey, that's a good job with that new feature, by the way. I wrote a lengthy article on this builder transaction, and I posted to LinkedIn. McKenna, I put it in our show notes. If you can post that, that's great. But Mike, here's the answer. You know, Taylor Morrison, it has an 88.7% capture rate for its financing arm. Its internal financing arm has an 88.7 capture rate for people buying at Taylor Morrison. And Clayton Homes, of course, which specializes more in manufactured homes in the South, it also provides all its own financing. So yes, absolutely. And I think I don't have the number in front of me, Mike, but it's something like together they're immediately become a top. I think it's a top 10 lender just on their current financing. It's not a small thing. Like, so the answer is yes. So there you go. So that's the answer to that. Interesting.
And we've got the link posted in our comments, but I think that's only viewable on our YouTube, our Little Nessie YouTube channel. So make sure you go there if you want the article that Ron was talking about.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Do we want to go to the next topic, or do we want to keep talking about the teen employment?
I'm good to go to the next one. Did we get through both slides? We had two, or just one?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We did indeed.
I promise I'm paying attention. All right. Let's do it.
And let me, David, I'm going to start by saying I was prolific this week in LinkedIn. I posted 3 articles to LinkedIn so far this week. I'm not sure why. I just must have been, up late or up early and inspired. But I did an article on this about, and the title of the article was something like, AI is ready to refer you. Are you referable, kind of thing? And the gist is more and more people are going to their AI tool first. It's still a small percentage, but it's a growing percentage. They go to their AI tool for the referral, for discovery. They go for discovery, referral, and validation. That's what they go for. Now, discovery is not a big segment yet, but it's a growing segment, meaning it's the first place they go is the AI tool. Right now, it's typically the second place. Aunt Susie refers Ron. So you go onto your AI tool and go, hey, how's this Ron guy? And that's the validation that gives me the confidence. But the people that now individually discover it is growing and growing and growing. And so the question is, are you, one, discoverable? And two, are you trustworthy to the AI tool? And if not, why not? And what do you need to do? So that's really kind of the basis of kind of the stuff we're talking about. And David, I think we have a few charts here. Let's kind of just breeze through them. Here's the first thing, and this came from the Modern Mortgage podcast, and it said the borrower is going to ask AI first. And the thing for you, are you findable? You know, can it find you? Can it validate you? And you need to learn how. And I know there's a lot of stuff about this AGI or AEO, GEO. There's a whole bunch of stuff about it. But are you discoverable? And David, we've talked about this, and I want to make this as simple as possible. Here's the thing you have to do. It's really simple. Whatever AI tool you use, and I suggest you have a friend do this because your AI tool is biased to you, but you go, hey, AI, who's the best loan officer in Scottsdale? Who do you recommend I use? I'm going to buy a house, give them whatever you want the scenario. Who should I use? And it's going to give you a list of 5 people. And the next thing you go, why did you recommend these 5 people? What do they do to get on your list? And it will tell you, it will exactly tell you. And then you go, what do I need to do for you to recommend me to anybody that asks this question in Scottsdale? And you know what it'll do? It will tell you. It will 100% tell you. And so it's very easy how to build your own AEO, GEO. You just ask the different AI tools and they'll teach you how. Now, there are some basic things, David, and this is where, and you know this better than me, are you discoverable? And you know, do you have a Google sheet? Do you post content? Are you present? But you know what a really big problem is that people misunderstand? There's trustworthiness. And if you're called Dave the Lender on Facebook, and you're just Dave, your Scottsdale man on LinkedIn, and you're Dave King, on Instagram, if your whole brand is fractured, the AI tool will not trust you. It will not trust you. So you have to have unity in your branding that's public, or else it won't trust you. It won't refer you. Step 1. Step 2, people ask, is SEO dead? And I would answer, yes. I know most people disagree with what I just said, except to the extent that AI gets trained on the things that drive SEO. Meaning it doesn't care about SEO, but the things that drive SEO, like your testimonials, customer engagement, customer comments, those things also drive AEO and GEO. So you still need to do those basic things. Now, the things that don't drive it is just, creating a bunch of useless posts. That doesn't do it. The other thing is AI really likes when you answer a popular question. Like if people go, what's APR? If that's their question, then you give a simple answer that you put on your library online so that AI can find it. And they go, oh, look, Dave has a really easy answer that I can refer to with confidence. And so I'm going to refer them. Things like that really, really help. But if you want to know what questions to answer, you can, of course, Google what are the most common questions today about home ownership or about interest rates or about mortgages. And then you start to answer those questions. But another great way is, what questions do your borrowers commonly ask you? If you just start to get a catalog that you store online with those answers, your AI searches are going to love you, And then if you have a few testimonials, if your brand is, is the same across all channels, you're really upping your list. And in my article in LinkedIn, I actually give a how-to step by step if you want to check that out. David, what's your thoughts? And this is your bailiwick. You're the branding, marketing, social media guy.
Did you just say this is my bailiwick?
Yeah, bailiwick. Yeah, like your jurisdiction, your area of expertise.
I've never heard that term before. I was like, what did he just call me? So you say that SEO is dead. I mostly agree with you, but not 100%. I took on a client a year and a half ago or so, maybe 2 years ago, forget exactly. But he was not in the mortgage industry, real estate industry, but he had to change his website. And the biggest thing for him was his blog that dated back 20 years. And with blogs, you've got backlinks and keywords and all that kind of stuff, right? And this was, like I said, I think it was about 2.5 years ago. And I tried my best to convince him that this stuff, honestly, I said in 6 months, maybe 4 months or 3 months, what SEO means today is going to be radically different than what it means right now or 6 months ago. And I don't think I had my best sales hat on that day because I didn't quite sell them on it. But sure enough, 6 months later, SEO not quite dead. I wouldn't say it's dead, but it's a lot of the same disciplines to go about what we were doing with SEO with now AI. A lot of the same disciplines with your social media, with having a consistent brand, the old traditional stuff with keywords and backlinks, not as important as it used to be 2 years ago and more. But a lot of the same disciplines are still true. Brand reputation, that kind of stuff. There's a lot more to it with AGO, but I think a lot of the disciplines are similar. But it's just a different headspace where we find ourselves in today. But we've got a couple of good questions. Ron, you go, and I'll see if I can read these.
Yeah, because I got two things for you, David. The first thing is, if you want any evidence of how SEO is outdated today, although once again, it is a training field for AI, so it has an
Yeah.
influence. But what did Google just do? They went to an AI interface, right? You go to Google today, you don't see all the search comes up. It is, hey, engage with me as talk to me, tell me what you want, and it's going to give you a specific result, right? The first change Google's made in 25 years. So that's one thing. You want to know the second thing, and this is really interesting. This is a real stat. ChatGPT referrals, when ChatGPT refers you, right, that referral converts about 15.9% of the time. So it has, which is incredible, 15.9% of the time when chat refers you. If you just find me through Google's organic traffic, that referral only converts 1%. It's actually 1.76%.
Right.
So AI referral, there's other data. I think I used some other in my article, some other data. But so AI converts at 9 times the rate as a search engine. It converts something like 3 or 4 times the rate of a human referral. Because you know what? It's not only a testimonial, it actually does fact-based research, and it says, here's why I'm recommending them. It's super powerful. Now, questions, David?
No, we've got a comment from Troy. It's not really so much a question, but a comment. So Troy just did exactly what you just recommended, Ron. He asked ChatGPT if he is a good lender in his area. Interesting to read the results, pulled reviews, common themes online, but then went on to encourage to get a quote from him, but recommended a couple other local lenders to shop and compare. But hey, the trick is, I think, Troy, if there's someone out there in your area and you're not good friends with them, they're probably not going to enter your name into Chat GBT. They're probably going to enter a search like, who are the best lenders around me? So try that as well. And don't give it your name or your company, but ask Chat, who are the top 10 lenders in my area? See if you come up. And then whichever names come up, like Ron said, ask it, why did you pick those lenders, and learn from that.
Yeah, David, I would add, actually give it a scenario. Say who your profile buyer is. Give that scenario to Chat. Pretend to be that. Go, hey, I'm a homeowner. I'm going to be a home buyer. I want to buy a $600,000 house in Idaho. Blah blah blah. Hey, who do you recommend? That's what you got to do, and then go. And then I've done this. I've done this in presentations. I've done this all over, David. It's weird what they pick. Like one place I was doing a presentation, and all 5 choices were rate loan officers. And I'm like, why did you pick 5 rate loan officers? They're not even the highest volume. Like, what was your thing? It had to do that.
Yeah.
Rate was really advertising a lot in that marketplace, both digitally, and across other medias, and that was driving their answer. And so I'm asking, why did you pick that? Like, I know these people, they're not the best, and I've learned so much how I picked it. And then so when you see it, something like that, you see like some weird kind of link to how it's doing something, ask it, and then really ask it, what would I have to do to be your number one choice? And you learn so much, Troy. I love doing that exercise.
I've done it, but it's been a while. I need to do it again sometime soon. We went way over with that one, Ron. Should we move on to our rapid fire topics?
Heck yeah.
All right, let's do it. The market is adapting.
Yeah, this is David. I'll set this up. I'll be much faster. And I don't even remember if we have data on it. We have other. McKenna, can you tell me? Do we have
We've got
charts
2
on this
slides.
topic? 2 slides. All right. Here's the deal. Let's go to the first slide. I have 2 big points. One, we are in a really healthy, normal market. We have pending sales are up about 6% year over year. Even though mortgage rates are at 6.5%, which is higher than during the pandemic, it's slower than historically speaking, and buyers are now comfortable with the interest rates. Cancellations are way down. Actual conversions are up, meaning the actual price cuts, the percentage of price cuts are going down because home sellers are now starting to price the house right. And when they price the house right, the house sells. Things are pretty healthy right now. The buyers and the sellers have the right mindset. Everything's good in that way. And what's the next? Can you give me the next slide? But here's the problem. The problem that's slowing the market down. And Mike, I know you and I had a great conversation about this the other night. Is that consumer sentiment, which has nothing to do with reality, is the lowest it's ever been. It's at a 48.8. It's lower than it's 30 points lower than 20 years ago. The consumer feels crappy, right? And who can blame them? I mean, go to the gas station. Gas is, depending on where you're at, $5. Go to the grocery store. A hamburger meat is like $8 a pound. Everywhere you're inundated with these crazy costs, and you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I can even afford to buy my kids food. And then you read the paper and you hear AI is going to replace you, and golly, oh my gosh, it's a horrible labor market. That's bad. And you get all these negative inputs, right? But the truth is, those negative inputs probably aren't really affecting you. You probably really aren't going to lose your job. And you know what? Your wages have probably gone up faster than inflation. You're probably in a good position. But there's this weird thing, and we don't have a chart. I wish we had it, David. This is honestly true. When you look at the University of Michigan consumer sentiment, when you're asked, how do you feel about your current condition and are you comfortable? 73% of people say, I'm in pretty good shape. And you know what? That hasn't changed in 10 years. It hasn't changed 10 years. When people, then they go, well, how do you think your local community is doing? And they're like, it's not doing so good. And it's like at 40%. And it's gone down 20 points in the last 20 years. And then you go, well, how do you think nation is doing? And they're like, oh, it's horrible. And they give it a 25%. So they go, I'm okay. My city's not as good, and my country's in deep trouble, right? And the difference is the reality that they experience, I'm okay, and the perception of what they're being fed, whether it's from the media or online, and that undermines, that paralyzes, it takes away their confidence, and they get paralyzed from making great decisions. And the message that I want to just say is, look, we're at one of the best economies ever. Now it's K-shaped. We're going to talk about it a little bit. Best economies ever, and people are wealthier than ever. And most people can afford to buy a house. Now, they may not want to make the sacrifices. They don't have the values to make the sacrifices, but they're capable of doing it. But there's this vibe going on that is preventing them, that's paralyzing them. And the point is, David, that I would argue, and I'll get off my soapbox, is that our job today as loan officers is not getting the application, is not figuring out the process. It's not figuring the loan program. It's talking people off the cliff of this vibe that is preventing them from making great choices. Now, David, I'll get off my soapbox and I'll let you respond.
I just think about, you know, you, me, and probably anyone watching this, we probably follow Housing Wire. We probably watch Squawk Box. We probably watch In the Money. We probably read this, read that, Mortgage News Daily. We engulf ourselves in it, but that's not your normal person. I think your normal person is just reacting to the national headlines, the media narrative that might be out of date and so on. But I do think at some point, I think most people are going to stop waiting for those perfect conditions, and they're just going to start making life decisions and adapt to the reality that we're in now.
I totally agree. I don't want to, Dave, I want to go back to it. It's weird. When I started as a loan officer back in the day, I mean, almost, when I brought my first house, you had triplicate meaning the application was in triplicate. It was like a carbon copy that you'd have to type out, and you'd have to hand deliver your package to the bank, which was a savings and loan. And there was a huge art form to trying to build an application to get it approved. And that was the product. That was my product. My product was being able to take an application, figure out the art of getting a loan approved and getting it closed. And then, AUS and FICO scores came along, and now that made it easier, to develop a file and to get it closed. And so the industry moved towards advising. We became advisors then because the product of the application and packaging had no more value or had less value. And now I became a holistic advisor. I'm a loan officer that, I'm a financial planner that, focuses on home ownership type thing. And that's great. But it's changing again now that we have all this, technology and AI and everything, as we talked about it before, borrowers actually like talking to a bot more than a human, and they convert higher when the bot talks to them than a human does. So what role do we play? The role that we play is this thing about what's happening between their ears and being their Sherpa, their guide to let them get to good decisions confidently against what maybe the vibe is. That's what our job is today. That's what I see as our primary job. And if you don't understand what your product is, I believe that's the product, but you may be left behind. That's why we have to kind of change our skill sets. David?
I asked McKenna to bring up Mike's, so he agrees, though aren't defaults and credit card debt levels climbing right now? I believe the answer to that is yes.
Well, I don't believe the answer. Mike, the answer, let's talk about credit card debt levels first. The answer is yes, but credit card debt as a ratio of take-home pay is at nearly a 70-year historic low. So yes, is credit card debt at one point, whatever, $3 trillion today? Yes. But do we have 50 million more Americans than the last time it was at that record? Yes. And are stuff more expensive now? Yes. And do people make a lot more money now? Yes. And one thing about credit card debt, Mike, over 70% of credit card debt is paid off monthly. Over 70%, it's almost 80%, depends on which month. But people, because you know what happens today? This is why credit card debt is so deceptive. People now, the major function of payment is a credit card today. That's not credit, it's a payment method. 70%, and numbers have been as high as 87% of all credit card debt is paid off every month. So it's not even carried. So to say that, gosh, we have more credit card debt, no, we have more payment activity on a credit card. We're not necessarily carrying more monthly debt. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing is, are late payments going up? Slightly, but they're going up from near 0 to 0.1 or 0.2. Where you're really seeing a rise in, say, defaults or credit faults is in the student loan area. That's what's driving, when you look at bad, like late payments, that's driving 90% of it. And it's because people were on these forbearances, weren't having to make payments, and all of a sudden they have to make payments. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm not paying that. But it's not, I do not think that credit card business is distressed at all. Personally, I don't. And I'm not worried about credit card balances. I know not everybody would agree with what I'm saying.
Ron, the longer that you and I have gone on with this podcast, the more I realize that I am not intelligent enough to be co-host with you. The amount of data and facts and stuff that you pull out of your behind is insane. It amazes me every time. McKenna just flashed us, said we're 5 minutes over time on this topic. So I think we need to move on.
Thank you, McKenna. Let's move.
McKenna just flashed me. Gross. Let's move on. Staying closer to home.
Yuck.
This is interesting. And so I think we have some data here, if I remember right.
2 slides.
Perfect. Thank you. So this is people that move. People that move now, the majority of them, 60% of them, aren't moving out of their city. So people aren't moving out of their city. They're staying in the same city, right? This is different than pandemic. People moved all over the place. Today, if you're moving, you're more than likely not moving out of your city, which is kind of an important thing. And then the second one, let's look at. And here's the second data. It's essentially the same thing. But here's the thing, Dave. There is something important here. People aren't moving, and you know what the problem is? It's job creation and job transfers. People aren't changing jobs. And Mike Simonson at now Compass Intelligence, before at Altos, he's been on this for 3 years. Job changes drive housing. right? Because something like there was something like I can't remember this statistic I'm gonna make up, but it's directionally right. Something like 20% of all job changes generate a housing move, right? And if people aren't changing jobs, same thing by the way, the transfer rate, there's a statistic and it's something like this. Typically when an employer require relocation, it's about 10% of their market, 10% of their company relocates every year due to a changing job position. That number is now below 2%, right? So people that are moving within their company, they're not moving out of their city, and that people aren't getting new jobs, which means they aren't moving. And that's really, that's a huge driver of housing activity. And so it's something really important to pay attention to. And I just want to say again, Mike Simonson has been on top of this, has been doing great data. Now it's covered everywhere. You see everybody talking about it. Housing Wire covers it all the time, but it's something to pay attention to, people changing jobs. So here's what's happening right now. We have a very low, nearly historic low, by the way, layoff rate, very low, but we also have a low hiring rate. So everybody's staying put. People are thinking it's too risky now because once again, the vibe is too risky to move. I can't give up my job. It's too risky. I'm going to be the bottom man on the totem pole if I change companies. And oh my, we're all going to hell in a handbasket. And so people aren't moving jobs. And when you don't move jobs, you do not move. You need another life event to make you move. And even so, you're going to cling to your house. Dave, what do you think about that?
I think I don't want to use the word COVID because of algorithms, and the more times you use trigger words, the more the algorithm works against you. But during that time, I think there was a massive reset in the housing. Well, not think there was a massive housing reset. And I think that when there's uncertainty in the world, and especially I'll say it during COVID, when work from home became a reality for most people, I think most people will tend to move towards familiarity, so closer to family. And so this story kind of feels kind of like a migration story that people during the last 5 years or so have moved towards what's familiar and what's comfortable, going back to community, being surrounded by friends and family. And so yeah, I think now that that great reset has happened, the moving has become has gone way down, and I think it might be a while before we see something similar.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, David, is if I have a job in New York and I'm getting premium wages because New York is so expensive to live in, and now my job lets me work from home, why don't I move to the Midwest? Right?
Right.
Because I get New York wages at Midwest, cost of living. That's great.
Yeah.
And by the way, as a side note, the Midwest is the only one breaking the mold. There are a ton of people moving to the Midwest right now. And it's for that
Mm.
very reason. It has great affordability. And if you can take your high wages to a low cost place, good for you. One other thing that is really important on this topic is surprisingly, renters are moving less. Renters are moving considerably less, like half as often.
Wow.
And renters, of course, become home buyers. And when renters don't move, they don't become home buyers. And that's another thing that's driving this, which is just causing, we would normally have more transactions. And it's not just because of interest rates or home prices. It's this fear. This whole fear thing. I don't want to move my job. I don't want to risk changing jobs. And now I'm not going to move. And now I'm not going to move. I'm not going to buy a house. It's just, it all feeds each other. It's just interesting stuff.
Yeah. We've got two more rapid fire topics. Our next one, ooh, this could be interesting. The top retail leaderboard for IMBs.
Yeah, let's just be really clear. So the Scotsman Guide, top lender list came out last week, and they chop it up all sorts of ways. You can go FHA or VA. I think they even have a consumer direct now. They have wholesale. They have overall. We specifically are listing retail lenders, and we don't have enough time to go through the top 100. But so we listed the top 20 here. See if there's anything that jumps out at you, David. Let's go to the first top 10 here, and pretty interesting, right? Top retail lenders cross country. And it's so funny because there's so many lists. If you look at the top five, I've seen all the top five claim to be number one from some list, but let's say use this as cross country is pretty firmly number one retail lender, like really firm. Rates number two, 30 billion. CMG, which is moving up the ranks at 27 billion. Loan Depot, and by the way, everybody's volumes down say from the pandemic, but Loan Depot is in about the same spot. It's been around four. Loan Depot and Guild have been at four. Loan Depot, Guild, and Fairway have all been like 4 or 5 or 6 for like 3 years. Matter of fact, I'd even say Loan Depot, Guild, Fairway, and Movement have all been the same spot the last few years. Now, New Americans moved up 1 or 2 spots, but what's the top 10? How's that, how does that seem to you, David?
Like you said, I don't think much has changed in the past few years. And they've all kind of shuffled up and down 1 or 2 spots and so on. But it just kind of warms my heart when I see a couple of those logos that, or maybe warms my heart and the opposite at the same time when I see a couple logos on there of the companies that I've worked at. But here's if you currently work at any of the top companies, whether it's the top 10 or top 50 or top 100, shout them out in the comments, and tell us why you enjoy working at the company that you do. I do know we'll give a special shout out, Ron. You and I have worked together at 2 different companies before Little Nessie, but the most recent one was Homeowners Financial Group. They dropped a little bit, but I've got confidence that Bill Rogers, their owner, founder, CEO, is going to bring them back up. Great guy. But he'll be back in the top 50 in no time.
Yeah,
what's that?
They're usually they're 59th. They're usually top 50, but I know that they have been recruiting great. Their value props great. I know that they're going to be back in the top 50. But I'm so surprised that cross country is getting so much distance between them and rate. It seemed like they were closer before. I'm surprised CMG's so strong. Now that Anthony Shade's back at Loan Depot, I expect that they're going to climb back up to that 3rd position, which they've historically kind of been at. The thing is, look how tight this is. The difference between Fairway, and Guild is, $500 million, not much. Same thing. The difference between Guild and Loan Depot, $500 million. And Movement's hanging in there. It seemed like Movement was dropping for a little bit, but they're hanging in there. And then New American Funding is just keeps surging, and they're doing well. Well, how about the second 10? Let's see what we see there.
And this was for all of 2025, correct?
2025, right?
Yeah.
So APM, which just did a ton of acquisitions in 22, 23. Funny, prime lending really hasn't gone up or down. They're who they're. Prime lending is who they are. It's interesting. Anything new? NFM's going up the leaderboard, good company. Guaranteed Rate Affinity, of course, which is the JV arm of Rate.
Is Rate the only affinity in the top 20? There's Better Mortgage, Neo Home Loans. That's a affinity.
No. Better actually owns Neo Home Loans, and Better is definitely surging. It wasn't that long ago they were on their death. But Chad Smith is doing a great job there with Better Homes. And of course, you got the Neo team who are just really added a lot of kind of validation for Better. So they're surging a little bit. Supreme somehow comes up on this top 10 list. Mutual Omaha keeps reinventing itself every year. But
Supreme used to be higher, didn't they?
They did, but not that much higher. They've always been like a 20. The one that's going up the list, I think, is and the one to watch on this top second 10 is NFM. That's if I was going to watch one of them, I think they're doing some really good stuff there, and I think Chad's doing some really good stuff at Better Mortgage. He's a sharp operator, and because we work with him at Loan Depot.
Yep. All right, let's move on to, we got yet another comment from Michael Stowers talking about how he's appreciative to working with 2 of these companies in the past. Anyway, moving on to the last topic.
Mike, you could give us great insights on a couple of these companies, but probably you wouldn't want to necessarily make them all public.
There was a question that was on the tip of my tongue, but I was like, no, let's move on. So what are we talking about here, Ron?
Oh, this is a really short topic, really interesting. So, David, it's amazing. All these AI companies are minting millionaires like crazy, right? And they're minting millionaires. So, San Francisco luxury housing is appreciating at like 25% a year. Why? Because you have all those tech companies there that are making.
Yeah.
What is it? What was it the other day? Was it OpenAI minted? Or no, it was NVIDIA minted 300 millionaires by letting them do a private stock sale of their stock options, right? And that's another thing. You no longer have to wait until a company goes public. Like think of SpaceX or think of Anthropic. They're going public, right? And when they go public, all those companies, that stock gets converted into real value, and then you're going to have it was something like 300 people at was it NVIDIA that became like they were at least $10 million or more net worth that day, and so now they're really driving the luxury market, and so that you can show this chart doesn't do a great job, but it shows that the luxury market is growing much better than the non-luxury market, and David, here's really the insight, and so you see the red line is luxury. Who knows what the blue line is? Let's go to the next chart. It's better actually. Is non-luxury, right? But here's where you kind of see the divergence. You can see non-luxury now as the prices are falling, and luxury the prices are increasing. And here's the thing. All this is a reflection of the K-shaped economy, where the economy is thriving. People have assets, the luxury prices are increasing. Where there's an affordability challenge on the other shape of the K, where there's affordability challenge, prices are driving. And that's just economics, and that's healthy. So it just tells you the market's working. Where there's demand, prices are increasing. Where there's affordability challenges, which is eroding demand, prices are falling. So you can have a bifurcated market, and we're definitely see that now in the luxury market. David, thoughts?
I just think about how technology just spreads into every industry, and mortgage and real estate are not excluded from that. When the year 2000 came about, what was it? Oh, it was called Y2K. They thought the world was going to blow up, but the internet just created wealth at a scale that we had never seen before. And then comes along crypto, and that created wealth that we had never seen before. And now here's the newest thing, AI creating wealth that is just out of this world. And each one just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But I think the main area or industry that we see people investing in, regardless of what the technology is real estate. So it's just something to tell us that we're in the right business,
Yeah. It's crazy. So luxury pending sales in San Francisco jumped 48% year over year because of all these IPOs, all these new millionaires.
Wow.
And the average sales price is $6.7 million.
Average what?
Sales price is $6.7 million.
Is it really?
Now
Holy cow.
they qualify. They go San Francisco luxury median sales price is 6.7 million. I don't know what that means. I didn't know. Like, how would you even classify that? I think that's classified as a house over $1 million. The average price for a house over $1 million, $6.7 million. It's crazy. It's crazy. But there is a lot of wealth in the world. There's a lot of abundance. Once again, it's what you focus on.
There could be a lot more wealthy people once SpaceX does their IPO, which I've been seeing more and more chatter about that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, think of this. ChatGPT, open AI, it just surpassed 1 billion users. The fastest, it was the fastest growth to 1 billion users in history. It is faster than, so the next one was like Instagram or TikTok or something like that, but it blew past them like in a third of the time. It's incredible.
Wow. Right. I think that's all we got. That's all of our topics. We usually have a AI tech tip, prompt of the week. But we knew that we were overloaded with topics for this week. So we decided to skip that one, even though there were a couple topics that had AI kind of wrapped up into it. Hey, if you've been watching for the last little over an hour, we appreciate it. Mike Stowers, thanks for pulling together some people. We appreciate it. You never hit me up on that free t-shirt last week. Offer still open. Ron, any final thoughts?
Nope. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for participating. It makes the show better. And have a beer on me during this happy hour. Troy, it's good to see you. I didn't see you, but thanks for participating.
Yeah. And LinkedIn has changed their way that they go live. We use a third-party tool. That way we can stream to all of our different channels. But LinkedIn has just recently changed up their permissions, restrictions, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think we're live on LinkedIn right now. I checked my personal LinkedIn at some point during the broadcast. So we'll probably post it on LinkedIn, but it won't be live. But we know that the one place that we want you to go is our YouTube channel and subscribe there. So Little Nessie Media, we appreciate you hanging out with us. We started with a cheers. We will end with a cheers. Well, Mr. Stowers, cheers to you, sir, and cheers to the rest of you. And we'll see you next week.